I have room for one more question, and I'm just going to take the convenient route.
Let's assume that our friends at British Petroleum are correct, and that we've already consumed about 0.9 trillion barrels of oil on the planet. The price goes up to $120 a barrel, and there's about another 0.2 trillion barrels with a little second bell-shaped curve that we superimpose on the first one. Then the price goes up to $140 a barrel, and there's another little, probably 0.1 trillion, 0.85 trillion. I superimpose those three bell curves, and I get a really interesting shape. What it says is that we're probably going to plateau at roughly this petroleum level for a few years, and then we're going to have a cliff. And all of my life I was expecting Hubert's Peak, nice up, nice peak, nice down. But if this analysis is correct, if I change the total volume of oil available at $120 a barrel and $140 a barrel, it really doesn't change the shape of that cliff very much. And it also doesn't change how far it is in the future. Is that correct?
That is correct. The thing that really needs to be welded to that, though, is this idea that we have an economic system where the debt levels have been growing at about 8% per year, compounded, for 40 years. And in order for our systems to function as we want them to, that means we have all of our too-big-to-fail banks, plus governments get to overspend to their heart's content, et cetera, and so forth, requires that system of debt growth remain intact. And that's no longer a viable option. I mean, we've seen this extraordinary explosion where the banks worldwide have printed about $11 to $12 trillion in the past 4 years. And we see governments running extraordinary deficits. And all of that requires this narrative that we're going to get back onto normal growth to be true. And increasingly, major money managers, whole countries, people are starting to go, uh-oh, I don't think that's true anymore. Like, this is really moving very mainstream in terms of the people who have a lot of money. Look at anything by Jeremy Grantham. He runs a $104 billion fund out of Boston. He's all over this story. And you find people like PIMCO suddenly saying, we don't believe in treasury bonds anymore. This is just madness, right? And they run $300 billion bond funds. So when big money is starting to walk away from this, they don't know what to do yet, right? So they're all sort of edging back slowly from this story. But the system that we know and love requires us to have a form of energy that we no longer have. That's where these two ships are coming together. And it's going to be very difficult to predict exactly what or when, how this is going to play out, but I'm very comfortable saying it's not going to revert back to how it used to be. There has to be a new story. But meanwhile, all of the people who are running the major fiscal and monetary levers are applying them as if the old story is coming back. That's plan A, that's plan B. That's the only plan we have. We're going to get back to how things used to be. And if that's not true, what they're actually doing is setting up a set of risks that could see something very catastrophic happen. The dollar could take a real beating, maybe even disappear as a unit of currency. Whole world economic systems could break down, break apart. While all of that's happening in the West, China is very busily running around the world, acting as if this story I just told you is real, buying every resource they can get their hands on using checkbook diplomacy. And so this next shape of the, when I say a world worth inheriting, under that, one of my veins that I want desperately to avoid is for my children to be drafted into a resource war because we weren't smart enough to see how to change our own behaviors before we tried to blame somebody else for our lack of stuff. And that's the larger story I see, is that the path we're on can't be resurrected. We can't get back on that old path. We have to get onto that new path. And I don't think any combination of slant drilling is going to fix that for us at this stage.
Please join me in thanking Dr. Chris.